This is what everyone knows Newcastle for, football. But I'm going to tell you about something much, much better.
They want to know about Islam, we'll give them da'wah. They want to know what a Muslim does, we'll give them da'wah. When they want to hate on...
In 2012, I was a non-Muslim who walked into my local masjid. I met the brothers there from IDC. This was a team of brothers who told me about the message of Islam in detail. I took my shahada. The brothers, they didn't just leave me there. You know, they supported me, provided me new Muslim classes, and after all these years, I became the head of the new Muslim department here at IDC, teaching other new Muslims, supporting them and mentoring them, just like I was supported. IDC is not just your typical charity. We have our Islamic awareness stalls engaging with non-Muslims in our local city centre and answering all their questions about Islam, public events and exhibitions for non-Muslims to come learn about Islam, masjid visits for the local community, school visits teaching non-Muslim kids and staff about Islam. We visit the elderly and spend time with them regularly to give them companionship, feeding the homeless every single week, giving them hot meals and advice. We make the children smile every single year by visiting them in the hospitals and giving them gifts. So many people have taken their shahada with us.
Ashhadu an
la
ilaha
illallah.
Because of this, we then provide new Muslim classes for them and support them on their journey. Please, please, please give whatever you can. Do you know how much you can afford? Better than myself. Some of us can give £10, some of us can give £500, and every single person that accepts Islam, you will get a portion of that reward. The Prophet, peace be upon him, he said that charity does not decrease our wealth. So brothers and sisters, believe in those words and give for the sake of Allah. And Allah, inshallah, will increase it for you. Click the button and donate now.
They want to know about Islam, we'll give them da'wah. They want to know what a Muslim does, we'll give them da'wah. When they want to hate on our deen, we'll give them da'wah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're watching Newcastle Fast FM. This is the Late Show with your host Abu Tayeb and our co-host Jamaal Richards. Assalamu alaikum, Jamaal.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How you doing, AT?
I'm good, man. Nice to have you back, brother.
Nice to be back. I tried to come on last night, bro, but where I was, it was very, very dark. I was doing Talaweh out on the hill in the beautiful countryside with some brothers, mashallah. And I wanted them to come on to share the message of the importance of helping supporting IDC, but unfortunately it was too dark, so never mind. I'm here today. It's a bit dark here as well, but forgive me. But lighting's not great, but I'm doing.
I was saying you got some sort of little ambiance thing going on there, Jamaal. Yeah?
Only because I've only got one light source. It's right here. It's my lamp. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm really excited for tonight's show, Jamaal. It's going to be a good one, inshallah.
Likewise.
It's going to be a topic that is, in my view, not discussed enough, right? And I've got some very strong views on this myself anyway, but I think it's going to be an interesting discussion with our special guest. So let me introduce our guest, Gabriel. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is it Gabriel or is it Jibril?
Whatever you like, man. My mom. Well, it depends which part of the world you come from.
So, how are you, my brother? You good?
Alhamdulillah, man.
How has your Ramadan been? I know it's at the end of it, but subhanallah, how has it been for you?
Well, it was different, man. It was definitely something different because of the lockdown and whatnot. So we learned a lot of new things about ourselves. But alhamdulillah, we need to adapt really fast, and we need to make sure that we make the best out of whatever situation it is.
Of course. So let's get straight into it, yeah, because we've got a lot of things to talk about for tonight. So let me start off by introducing yourself. Let's get a bit of background on who you are, about yourself. I know obviously you're a revert to Islam.
Okay. Tayeb. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salam rasulillah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So my name is Gabriel Keresztes Aromani. I was born in Romania in 1983. I moved to Canada when I was about 13. And that's where I first met Muslims for the first time in my life. And it did change my life. They were different than what I was told. I grew up in a Islamophobic society. We have a lot of issues with the history of Islam in Romania with the Turks and all that. So we were really taught to hate the Muslims. I mean, it was part of our curriculum. It was part of our schooling. It was part of our culture. And then I met Muslims finally in Canada, and I saw a contradiction between what I was taught and what I experienced. So I decided to study Islam. And at the beginning, maybe the intention was not correct, but I saw some problems in what we've been taught and what I've experienced. So alhamdulillah, fast forwarding, it took quite some years, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me to take Shahada in 2003, and then allowed me to complete my education. I've done my education in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and I did a double major in biology, psychology, neuroscience, and cognition. Then I went to do a major degree in education, and moved to the Middle East to teach in the UAE, alhamdulillah, where I was blessed to study with different scholars, alhamdulillah, and learned Arabic, alhamdulillah, even though I started from zero, alhamdulillah. And then I graduated from Mishka University of North America with a bachelor's in Islamic studies, and went into education, into management. So from teaching, I became a school manager, school principal, superintendent. And finally, Allah has brought me to Malaysia right now, where I'm a school principal for Al-Hamra International School in Kota Damansar in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. And I've been doing dawah for about 16 years now. I was probably one of the first YouTubers out there with Abdurrahim Green and Khalid Yassin and some of the other brothers who had accounts at that time, Yusuf Estes. And basically been trying to bring to the world the message of Islam, because I found it and Allah has blessed me with it. And it's been a challenging 15 years, and a lot of people might not understand these challenges, and they live in oblivion, kind of looking at YouTube videos, seeing the shahadas, seeing the cool and the positive things, but they don't see what actually happens after. They don't see the reality of things. And a lot of them, ignorance is bliss. You kind of choose to see what you want. You see all the 500 people entering Islam and blah, blah, blah and all that, but they don't understand the struggle, what happens the next day.
Yeah.
So being in education allowed me to see that. I've traveled to over 40 countries. I've been working as an educational consultant now for about 10 years, working with different Muslim communities in the West and in the East. And basically, as a Muslim, I said, what can I do to solve some of the Ummah's problems? Where can I fit in to look at some of the issues that I can rectify? So I said, education is one of them. Then I said, okay, that's quite, it's quite large, it's quite vast. Where can I focus on? What can I focus on? And it was my students, in the end, it was my students that helped me gain that focus. Because when I was teaching in the Middle East, I was teaching the Bedouins. In in the desert, and they're really cool people, tough people, good people with some morals and really practicing Islam. But what I noticed is, and they would come to me and they would open up. I was in all boys school. What I noticed was the loss of identity as they were being given more and more social media.
I think we're losing you a little bit.
Oh, are you? Can you hear me?
I think is it me, or is it freezing a little bit?
It might be UAT, because I can
The
hear
screen freeze.
Brother, okay.
Okay. Right. So
Okay.
good to go?
Yeah, I think
Yep.
Go ahead.
Right. So I was saying I was teaching the Bedouins, I was teaching them, and I realized that they were slowly losing their identity. Their Arabic was getting weaker, their Islam was getting weaker, because I spent, a good decade there. So I could kind of trace the changes. And I think the biggest impact that it had on me was when a bunch of boys from my grade 12 class came to me and told me that, look, we have a problem here. It's a boys' school, all boys' school, right? And then it's kind of opened my eyes, because I started looking at it more and more, right? Sometimes you have that moment where it kind of opens your eyes. And they were talking about how, this might be a bit controversial, but they're talking about how, there was a class of like 24 boys, and they're talking about how, like 20 of them are engaged in homosexual activities, right? So I was shocked. And I saw how they're slowly losing their masculinity, they're slowly losing their identity, they're slowly losing their Islam, their culture, the way they're behaving. So that alarmed me, and I started researching the issue more and more, and I realized it's an ummah-wide problem, and that masculinity is under attack. Femininity, not feminism, femininity is under attack as well, because then I started connecting to some of my female colleagues in the other schools and realizing that they're having the kind of same issue. You know what I mean? And then trying to trace it to a common source. You want to find out, usually in research, you want to look at where is it starting from, where's the point, where's the problem. And I realized that it's a cultural thing. It's cultural colonization that's taking place, colonization of the mind and of the spirit that's coming in from overseas, from it's being imported, and it's changing them, and they don't even realize it. And as the bad brother or the extreme brother says in Black Gold, the movie Black Gold, he says, after some years, we're not gonna even be able to recognize ourselves, and that's exactly what it is. They're right now not able to slowly. The changes are so great in the Muslim Ummah that within a few years, people are not going to be able to recognize themselves. So,
well, yeah.
This is basically the background, what I do.
Yeah, no, I mean it's an interesting topic for sure. I mean, you come from a very particular background in Romania. So tell us a little bit about Romania. What's the lifestyle like there, and is that something that has had an effect on you to talk about these type of issues?
Okay, that's really good. So yeah, growing up, we grew up in the backyards, in the forests, and on the streets. We used to play football with no shoes on. Our fathers were men of ethics and morals. I mean, they didn't know Islam, so obviously they were not as straight as you would expect a Muslim to be. But Eastern Europe has an issue. They focus on being a man, and what it makes to be a man. So your grandfather would take you out to the market, and he'll teach you how to be a man. Your father would teach you how to be a man. I mean, I know people would be like, this is not right. But I remember my father, double riding me on a bicycle and going to work. We didn't have a car. And someone cut us off one time, you know what I mean? And most people would be like, whatever. But I mean, he put our life in danger. So my father kind of just stopped his car, kind of pulled in and pulled him out of the car. And in front of me, said, if you ever dare to do that again, I'll, break you in pieces. This is my son. Right. And I remember looking at him and I'm like, wow, like he defended me. He protected me. You know what I mean? So that was something that had a huge impact on me. I remember these things. You know what I mean? I remember growing up on the streets. I remember, our teachers, for example, the way they would handle behavior was totally different than what they do today, right? They exaggerate today. They make you feel uncomfortable, insecure, and that is actually causing people to do these school shootouts and put lists and go get guns and stabbings and whatnot. In our time, if there was an issue, sometimes, sorry to say, that the teacher would put the two boys face to face, and it would be like, all right, you guys want to settle it like men, settle it like men, or shake hands and just apologize. It was none of this like, oh my God, are you violent? Do you need some counseling or something like that? Are you
Yeah, do you think that's something which is biological, which is inbuilt in the way that boys and men behave, or is it something that is cultured and nurtured?
Well, I think it's both. You know what I mean? I think it's part of our DNA, no doubt. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنثَى. The man is not like the woman. But recently I saw this Gillette ad, that boys will be boys, and they're, making it look so bad. Like guys are, it's like they're always chasing women and always trying to oppress women, and they're violent and they have to be controlled and they have to be tamed and so on. We're not promoting violence. There's a difference between being a man and being tough and being strong and being violent, right? Violence is something uncontrollable. Violence is something that someone just does, because they cannot control. Strength of character, strength of physique, of soul, of mind, that comes with nurturing. It's in us to be able to be strong, but it needs nurturing. It needs tarbiyah. And that's why you see Islam was sent to the Arabs of Mecca, the strong people who were brave, who had these characteristics, right? And then the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I've been sent to perfect matters. So he polished that. He guided that. He really perfected that. But we see shuja, or bravery, strength, even fighting, knowing how to fight, was something praised at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So he said, teach your children how to wrestle, teach your children rami, to shoot arrows and to ride horses and to swim, right? Teach your children how to be strong, right? Today, that's something that's looked down upon, sadly, and it's considered violent. And so on. The Prophet ﷺ himself participated in some of the wars. As a child, he was picking up arrows, right? So he was growing up in the society. Again, we're not encouraging wars, we're not encouraging violence, but understand the development of strength in a man, okay? The man is not like the woman. It is built in his DNA to be strong, and you have to focus that, you have to nurture that, kind of like what some people are doing today with martial arts, right? They send their kids to martial arts to be focused, to learn respect, to learn how to discipline, right?
Yeah.
How to control
there's something interesting in this, because there's and again, we're going to put a little disclaimer out there to say that, look, we need to talk about these issues and these topics, even though they might be sensitive in nature, even though it might cause offense to some viewers who have different ideologies and things like that. Obviously, our intention is not to upset anyone or offend anyone like that, but we have to be able to have a mature, even academic discussion about these things.
Absolutely.
Because from my point of view, it's having a direct impact on our society that we live in. We're seeing not only moral decay, but we're seeing, there's so many things that are happening in our society, problems that we're seeing. And I genuinely believe part of it is because we don't know how to behave anymore. Regardless whether you're a man or a woman, we don't know how to behave in the way that we're supposed to be behaving, right?
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I want to highlight here is, because you touched upon something which is very interesting, and that is, obviously the Prophet ﷺ is our role model, our guide on what it means to be a real man, right? What it means to have masculinity, what it means to be, to have this idea of manhood, okay? I guess rujula, this real essence of manhood. And when we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, his whole life was revolved around tawheed, justice, moral character. These are things that we attribute to the Prophet ﷺ. And even he said, real men are as rare to find as a reliable, strong camel that can endure the burden of long trips. You can hardly find 1 in 100. It's reported that the Prophet ﷺ said. So, we know that he's our best role model. We know he's the, and we all know the famous story of, when some companions came to, well, not companions, some people came to Aisha radiallahu anha after his death, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and asked, what was the character of the Prophet, peace be upon him, like? What was he like? And she replied, Kana khuluquhu Quran. His character was the Quran. He was a walking, talking Quran. So when we want to look at what is manhood in Islam and masculinity, we've got go back to the Quran and see where it starts from there, and then look at the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and take it from there. So there's so many examples that we can use in terms of what Islam says about manhood and masculinity. And I do feel sometimes, well, not sometimes, many times, that we've lost that in our society. I really, really do. That we have a lot of confusion now about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is, I remember listening to one of my teachers, and he made a point. He said, he asked the question, what is the difference between a boy and a man? What's the difference between a boy and a man? And one of the biggest things that he highlighted was, or in fact, you could even say, not even a boy. What is the difference between a male and a man? Because you have grown adults who still act very childish and like boys, right? And you even hear this, oh, I'm going with the boys, boys will be boys. And they're like 18, 20, 25 years old. So he mentioned that, he said, one of the differences is responsibility. That a man is responsible for his actions.
No doubt.
Whereas a male or a boy, we see just children, they're not responsible for their actions. They just do what they're going to do without seeing the consequences, right? And the second thing he mentioned was discipline. Discipline. That we not only are responsible for actions, but we're disciplined enough to know how to behave when and where appropriately. And I think these are some of the things that really stood out for me when we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ. We see a lot of this in his actions. When he could have been angry, when he could have shown strength, he showed mercy. He restrained himself, and that takes real strength. And we know that from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that it's not one strength that makes you a man, but it's your controlling of anger.
Controlling anger,
yeah. So there's so many things that we can add to this. And likewise, the opposite applies. When there's time to be soft, he was harsh and he was strict and he was to the point, i.e. when it came to the issue of aqidah issues, when it came to making shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't go soft on people when it came to these issues. He was direct, he was straight, and he was to the point. So again, it depends on, there's so many things that we can look at from different angles. But I'm interested in, from your point of view, you mentioned about the when you were out in the Middle East and you saw certain things happening, but now you're looking at, you've got a course that you run called the Alpha Muslim Man. Tell us a little bit about that and why you decided to put that together.
Okay, great. MashaAllah. Bismillah. Yeah, you made some very good points, bro. This is the issue. And just part of the reason why I made the course, and I'll talk about the course in a minute, was, as I said, going and moving around the world and seeing a trend and the attack on masculinity. Now, we can talk about femininity as well and being feminine, and we're going to get to that maybe in a bit. But we're focusing on something, because I know a lot of times when I talk about this, the sisters will say something like, what about the ladies? How come you guys are always talking about men? Because, see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a chain of command very clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets, and amongst prophets, he says that we do not send revelation except to rijal, to men. Okay? So this is a chain of command. People like to submit or not, people like to accept or not. This is the reality. Allah has sent, without any exception, male prophets. There's only male imams, okay, who lead the salah. There's a reason for that, okay? We're not going to get into that debate right now. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a responsibility. People always look at it from the point of it's some kind of benefit or some kind of, no, it's an issue of responsibility. People need to understand. It's not about advantage, it's about responsibility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّمُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. The men are caretakers. They're responsible for women. They're responsible for the whole world. Allah said, إِنِّي جَائِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I'll put you on this earth as my representative. So it's this huge burden and responsibility on human beings. إِنَّ أَرَادْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put this amana and showed the amana to the heavens, the earth, and the mountains, but they refused. And mankind chose it, to lead it, to hold it. So it's a huge responsibility, brother, that's been put on the back of men. This deen has been spread on the back of men. Yes, you'll find some snippets where some women are contributing, and we give that, no doubt. We have Khadija, we have Maryam, we have Aisha. May Allah be pleased with all of them. May Allah, So yes, all these things. But in general, when you look at it, it is the males who have carried this. And that is a responsibility. And the females have their role, and that's their responsibility. It's like a football team, Imagine Liverpool, not having a goalie, everyone wants to focus on the forward, the striker, because he scores and he gets most of the attention. But imagine if the goalie wakes up one day and says, I want to score some goals, right? So they leave the net and they try to go to score goals. They're going to leave the net unattended. The team is going to lose. See, the problem is that today I believe, and I'm going to give a disclaimer here. I know we're discussing here, I think academically. It's an academic look at what the problem is, and it's our prerogative. It is. If you believe in democracy or whatever you want to believe in, okay, you'll be hypocritical for people to try to have an issue with that. This is our opinion, and we want to bring it forward, and may the best man win. You know what I mean? The best argument win.
Absolutely. Gabriel, before we go further into discussing your course, there was something that you said earlier on, which I was particularly interested in. You mentioned about the students where you were teaching, and obviously the habits that they had picked up. And you mentioned cultural colonization, and I was hoping that you'd be able to, elaborate on that a little bit more. In what form did that manifest itself, this cultural colonization, and then how did that lead you to take this course, to start teaching this course?
Okay, great. So I don't want people to get upset. You know what I mean? I'm a Westerner, I'm a Caucasian and all that. So, but, I moved from Romania to Canada, where it was a multicultural country. I met Muslims, and then I moved to the Middle East, where there's all kinds of people, Africans, Arabs, you name it. Then I moved to Malaysia. I've traveled the world. But what I see, coming from a non-Muslim background, academically studying the issue, there's been a colonization of the world for the longest time. Okay, the Western culture in general. You're talking about white people. White people have gone all over the world. They've colonized India. The British have colonized India. They've colonized, the world. Italians colonized, North Africa. You name it. The Germans. It's there. It's part of history. No one can deny it. Okay, Christopher Columbus has gone to the Americas, and the atrocities that have been, perpetrated against humanity, against people of different colors, has been, crazy, right? Different cultures and so on. Hypocritically enough, people are celebrating Columbus Day today, right? And Columbus was something that, subhanAllah, I'm not going to use bad words here now, but people just need to read a little bit. They just need to read a little bit and be a little bit. So I always ask, I was having a discussion with some Indian brothers the other day, and I said, what has the British done for you? And they said, well, they left the railroad, system. I say, yeah, but that was just to take the diamonds out of India and all the goodness, all the goods out of it. Look and study, understand what has happened. Now, of course, it became very expensive and it costed lives and wars and this and that. So they figured out an easier way, and that is colonization of the mind. And that's what we see right now in the Ummah, right? The Ummah has been quite strong, has been, always opposing, and you've had all kinds of, you had the likes of Omar Mukhtar, right? In Libya, you had, Lion of the Desert. You had all kinds of people always standing up and defending the faith, right? Of course, they don't want to talk about this because they're ashamed of it. And it's no problem to talk about Alexander the Great in a course in the university. There's no problem to talk about Caesar. There's no problem to talk about Napoleon. But when it gets to the Muslim heroes, then all of a sudden there's a problem. Okay, there's terrorism and, you're trying to push something. Come on, man. The hypocrisy and the double standard is so apparent, right? It's just crazy. So there's a cheaper way right now that doesn't necessarily have to cost so much and doesn't cost lives, and that is the colonization of the mind. And it's done through media. Media has been always the source. Even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Montgomery Watt, one of the Orientalists, said that one poet at the time of the Prophet ﷺ would be equal to 1,000 soldiers, right? Because of how he would inspire people. So today you have, Netflix, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, social media is promoting so much and has changed our culture so much. Globalization. We're all affected. No one can deny that we are affected. The fact that I'm wearing a coat, is an effect of that. But it's a least effect. But we're all affected, whether we like it or not. The faster we're honest with ourselves, the faster we're going to understand what's good and what's bad. Not everything is bad. Not everything is bad. I'm going to say that again. But a lot of people don't know how to pick and choose, because a lot of people think whatever I see on this screen, this is the truth. Whatever I see on the screen, this is the truth. I'm not going to get into controversy, but just a very small little example here, so people shouldn't get too upset. But with this COVID-19, you know what I mean? I'm not denying the virus. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it didn't kill people. But people just believe whatever they see. You know what I mean? Mainstream media, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I believe it. And how dare you question it, bro? It's on TV, man. Bro, it's on TV, brother. You didn't see the TV, what the TV said? Mr. So-and-so on TV said so-and-so, you know? I'm just like, wow, man.
As Muslims, we know this, that the mainstream media doesn't always represent the
No,
truth.
bro.
We know that
No,
anyway,
no.
because we've been on the receiving end of it for 20
brother.
years, right?
But that is the problem, brother. We don't. Maybe you do, and maybe brother Jamaal knows, and other brothers know. But no, we don't know. The Muslims themselves, if you dare to speak today, they'll say, bro, how dare you? You know, can't you see? It's not like that, brother. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very clear, إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَأٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا. If a fasik comes with some news, you should check it.
Check it.
Muslims don't check, bro. Bro, our whole mustalah al-hadith, the science of hadith, it is an evidence of how to do academics, bro. Today, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can get a YouTube channel or a Facebook, Instagram, whatever, go do some research, get a garbage degree, and a master's or a PhD that you just pay money for, or someone sat in and wrote your exam and your test, you know, as I can tell you, and I can confirm from many people who have done that. And all of a sudden, you're an expert, you know what I mean? It's not like that, bro. You know, people just need to really apply Islam. So that's the shock.
I agree. So and I think there's a lot of comments, Brother Gabriel. We got a lot of comments. Tonight's a busy night, yeah? So Jamal's going to jump in and give us an update on all the comments, inshallah.
Let's do that, yeah, because there's some brilliant comments to it. So where should we start? So Salwa Abdul Razak, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ariba Amanat same, Assalamu alaikum. That is biopsychosocial thing, meaning genetic, psychology, and your environment all shaped how someone might think and behave. Mashallah. Okay, Muslim BB, this is such a sensitive topic these days because if you talk about it, you're classed as chauvinist. To Brother Gabriel, have you ever been called a chauvinist before, and what would you respond? How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I've been called that before, no doubt. See, the problem is, and I've been called that actually by Muslims as opposed to non-Muslims. See, the funny thing is, bro, that going back to the colonization of the mind, you know what I mean? It's I mean, when I went to the Middle East in 2009, and I seen the Bedouins living their culture, and fast forward 5 years, I've seen a huge change, bro. And I wanted to see what's going on, what's happening, and I realized what happened, bro. It's more social media was coming on, more ideas were coming on, people are behaving more and more like imported, philosophies from the West and so on. I don't have a problem necessarily with I have an issue. I hate my own people or something. It's not about that, bro. It's about what is the truth. It's about in this world as human beings, what is the truth? People need to stop thinking about, well, you have yours. No, that's not a proper human understanding. The question is, what is right and what is wrong? What is the truth and what is not? And that applies to all human beings, Muslim, non-Muslim, you name it. It's not about that. If you are a human being, this is part of our nature. You want by default to know what is correct and what is right, how to live accordingly to the correct way that God wants you to. And if you're not asking that question, then you are at a loss. Indeed, you're at a loss. You've lost your humanity and you lost your basic instincts of knowing, because that's how you uphold justice. Does anyone have a problem with justice? I don't think so. Does anyone have a problem with morals and ethics? I don't think so. But why are we moving towards them? Why are we moving away from them? This is the question. Why are we moving away from morals? And the response is very clear. I have no doubt about it. It's because there's an agenda to destroy the family union, to destroy humanity, to destroy truth. And that is the agenda of shaitan in the end. I know people say, what is this garbage? This, stories, this shaitan, these spirits, go, look at Netflix or, some kind of paranormal things. But this is it. Because of course, in the technology age, when you're talking about these kind of things, right? People are like, oh my God, this guy's, he's got problems, you know what I mean? But look around. I always say, forget about religion. Forget about what I believe in. Just open your eyes and just take a good look around this world. Are we really improving our status? Are we really doing good by removing faith and removing ethics and morals? People are saying democracy and now we're smarter, we're science-based, evidence-based. Okay, so why hasn't the problem of hunger been solved? Why hasn't the problem of racism being solved?
Yeah.
Why is it that everything that we heard this year about this virus, it's all about Italy and Spain and UK? What about India? What about Papua New Guinea or Zimbabwe or something like that? How about those people? How about the 60 million people? The World Food Bank said that they're in state of poverty and are about to die from starvation. Why don't we hear about what's happening in the suburbs of Delhi? Of all 10 million people are lost with their jobs and had to walk back to their villages. What happened to those people? 400 kilometers or something like that. Why is it always about Europeans?
Because some people's lives are valued more than others. That's the
Exactly.
reality of the world that we're living in. And I agree with you completely about the whole point about we've got a lot of problems in the world today, right? We see a decline in morals and values. We've seen this happening over the years. Now, the beautiful thing about Islam is it gives us those values that we believe in, and they're universal and timeless values, right? This is what the beauty of Islam is for me. Islam puts people's rights in their right place. Everyone has their rights, and everybody's rights are different depending on who they are. All right. And this is the important thing for me. And it's all grounded in the belief in Tawheed, essentially. All right. So this is why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُ بِهِ شَيْئًا. Worship Allah and associate nothing with Him. But then the ayah goes on to talk about and be good to your parents and your relatives and your orphan and the needy and the neighbors and the neighbors that are near you and further away from you and the person you travel with, etc., etc. It goes on. It tells you there's a direct link between your belief in Allah and how you behave and how you deal with other people around you, how you fulfill the rights of other people around you. And I think this is why this topic is so important, because we genuinely believe that everything is grounded in Tawheed, including justice. That's the important aspect, I guess, that we're trying to get at here.
Of masculinity. I mean, that's one of the...
Masculinity. Right. Being just for the gender roles as well, having that justice for both gender roles,
No doubt. And I want to say two things here, just to interject, because as you said, I mean, justice, how can you apply justice if you don't have strength? And that's what we're trying to say with masculinity, that there's a difference between violence and strength. And that's what we're trying to preach and promote in our course. And as you said, the standard is the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba, Tawheed, and looking at the system of Islam. But two things I want to say. Funny thing, what I got a bit, I felt there was a big contradiction. See, the what's being promoted by Western philosophy right now at this time exactly is this whole gender neutral type of approach. Toxic masculinity is used, right? And I think people are confused, because when we talk about masculinity as Muslims, we're talking about first and foremost, as you said, Tawheed. And I have a series on my Instagram that talks about who is a real man. And the first thing I say is about Iman and Tawheed, right? Because knowledge, faith, and then these two require action. Knowledge, faith require action. And action, I'm talking about, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, standing for the meek, for the people, for the destitute of society, for the weak people, protecting and bringing justice to the world, right? Because that's what you do. You learn, you have faith, you're not scared, you're not a coward, and then you act to defend people and to bring justice to the world. The funny thing is that the Western societies that are attacking and putting these Gillette ads and these Nike ads about trying to make males less men. It's funny because they are the ones who are promoting like UFC and people bashing each other's faces and, big fights and all these wrestling, WWE, people smashing each other, right? People screaming, yeah, break his head, kill him, and so on. And I think that's where the confusion is. That's not what we're advocating. We don't advocate for that.
Yeah, exactly.
We do not advocate that. That's garbage. I'm so sorry. and it's bringing millions. It's one of the greatest economies, along with pornography. And we're going to get to that in a second. That kills males and masculinity. But these two, entertainment, violent entertainment, and pornography are, basically the foundation of economy in Western countries and a lot of things. And that's not what we're about. That's not what we are about. When we're talking about teaching our children how to put their fists up and defend someone, it's not about going and robbing someone or about breaking someone's face for money. We're talking about standing up for justice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Oh, you believe, stand firm for justice, even if it's against yourself." Even if it's against yourself. You know what I mean? So people get this wrong, understanding. But just one thing, bro, what you said is amazing. See, Islam is the solution to mankind. It's very clear. Today I was looking at a Launch Good campaign, and the brothers were saying, this beautiful religion, we're going to teach people this beautiful religion. I'm so sorry, I don't agree with that. Islam is not a beautiful religion. Islam is solution to mankind. If we're going to keep portraying Islam as a beautiful religion amongst other beautiful religions, I think we're cutting ourselves short. Because if you ask someone, people ask me when I give dawah, why should I become Muslim? What will Islam offer to me? And I say, you're gonna be with the winning team, man. This is the winning team. This is what it's offering. It's offering winning in this dunya and the hereafter. Right? As Kobe Bryant said, late Kobe Bryant, he said, if people come and ask you, why should I play for Lakers? Welcome to the winning team, right? This is what you're going to do. You want to play for number one. You want to play for top team, right? If you want to get your job, you're going to ask, what are you offering me? Why should I join your organization? When I go for an interview, guys, I don't just get interviewed. I'm going to ask them. I'm going to say, why should I join your company? Why should I choose your company? Why should I give my skills to you? So people ask me, why should I choose Islam? I said, because this is the winning team, man. This is what will bring light to the world. لِيُخْرِجَهُمْ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. So I have a question to all the viewers and all the non-Muslims. I always put this question. I say, because this is what we do with our course. People think that somehow in the Muslim alpha male, and I think there was a question about this alpha. Alpha means the leader of the pack. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I have put you as a representative, as a leader on this earth. It's not about flexing your muscle. That's not what we're teaching our boys in this course. We're not teaching the men to just go to the gym and pump steroids. And my brother just died in December 2nd, 2019, because he was using steroids and his heart failed. And a virus, most could be the COVID, took him over and he couldn't recover from it and he passed away. Okay, and he was a huge guy. It's not about that, bro. It's about the heart. It's about the heart. And a lot of people don't know. It's here and here. Iman, faith is here and here. And the two are connected. And then you connect to the outside. But I want to ask the question. I always ask.
Before you ask the question, Brother Gabriel, let me just add one quick point to that, because I think there's an important thing to clarify here. When we talk about Islamic masculinity, we are not talking about toxic masculinity.
No.
And I think sometimes the definitions need to be clarified, because when people talk about toxic masculinity, and especially in the Western context, it's usually from an experience that they've had of a man who's abusive, who's violent, who's, doesn't give people rights and takes away people's rights and stuff like that, as you touched upon earlier on. And I think this is important to highlight, that Islamic masculinity doesn't lead to, like what you mentioned earlier, about mindless violence or even terrorism and abuse like that, right? And there's an opposite side to that, which I want to highlight as well. Sometimes you see men put on a front. They have this bravado, right? And they act bigger than they actually are. And that's
usually
when
those are the biggest
line
cowards.
as well. So it goes to the other extreme, right? And then going trying to be too macho sometimes for their own good. And their understanding of what macho means is actually something, again, Islamically incorrect. And in reality, what happens is you find people who project their inner insecurities in their behaviors to compensate. So I remember, somebody who once told me, he said, you have nothing to prove to anyone with your strength, because you already know your abilities. And if somebody who's confident about that doesn't have to go and show off and start picking fights with people and just to see how to show people how strong he is and things like that. So we're making a distinction here between genuine toxic masculinity, which does exist out there, and what Islamic masculinity is, which is something which we base upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. And they were the best of men. They were the best of men. We have to highlight that, because, and we don't shy away from that either.
I think that's very important.
There are examples. And they were tough, they were strong. First of all, like you mentioned, tough and strong from in their heart and their iman first, but they were still tough and strong physically as well. Even if they weren't huge, they were still had a physical presence about them. and that we have to recognize also.
No doubt. I think that's very important about the presence. But see, about the toxic masculinity that you're talking about, the guys putting a front, where does that come from? It's from the same problem that we're just tackling right now. These guys are growing up watching Rambo, and he's killing, Vietnamese, and he's going through the jungle and chopping people heads off. And then they're playing, Grand Theft Auto, beating people and stealing and all that. And then they're watching WWE, with Lex Luthor and Hulk Hogan breaking heads and jumping off, I don't know where, right? And then they come and they think, I'm the man, you know what I mean? And then, of course, it's going to cause problems. But again, where is the problem coming from? From the same people who are trying to give you the solution, supposedly, right? And that's how it is, right? It's this double standard. But I always say, as you said, the Prophet ﷺ is the standard. The Sahabas are the standard. Islam is the solution to mankind. Islam is the solution. Recently I watched one of the African American sisters giving a lecture at one of the ISNA conferences, and she was talking about الرجال قوامون على النساء, and how she understood it. And I summarized her whole speech, and I said, sister, the solution to your problems as a female who's maybe quite aggravated and upset at what's happening is just Islam. It is Islam. To have a real Muslim man, you need a real man. You need a real Muslim man. And you need real Muslim men around the society to help the women and protect them. And so the problem is that women have been fooled into believing that they're independent and they can protect themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we are okay. We don't need all the women independent, kind of put your hands in the air, right? So definitely there's been fooled into this. And now they're realizing that they can't, because that's not in their nature necessarily. And now they're blaming men and all these things. So you got the Me Too movement. She said she's gone to the Me Too movement. Okay, the Me Too movement was against Donald Trump, right? So what happened? They couldn't even impeach them. They couldn't do anything. He's sitting there in the White House laughing his head at them. And actually they proved the point. Okay, he is what's called toxic masculinity. He is that type of man that's really, But the problem is they couldn't do anything. Why? Because they're shooting the incorrect arrows at the wrong target. You know what I mean? They don't know what they're doing. Nothing happened, bro. Nothing happened. Okay? Because the solution to mankind's problems is not women becoming more independent. It's because it's not a race, guys. The problem is that we've been fooled to believe it's a race. It is a team. It is a team that complements each other. It is a team that works together. And it's not about who's in the spotlight. It's about the team and how it does together. And the woman has her position and the man has his position. And let's not mix the two. Islam is the solution. I always ask this question, guys. The problem to women, to abuse, what is it? It's Islam in the end, because Islam does not allow dhulm. Al-dhulm, dhulumat yawm al-qiyamah. We're looking around the world. Let's take a few examples. Economy is destroyed. Why? Because cowardice type of economical systems that are based on riba. Islam doesn't allow riba, so Islam would solve that problem. Prostitution, pornography, child abuse, all these things. Islam has strict codes and punishments on it, so Islam would solve that issue. Everything you look, alcohol, how many people die from drinking and driving, from intoxication, from drugs yearly? Islam doesn't allow that. What is the problem with the world? Why don't they want to make a better world? This is my issue. Because trust me, I'm so sorry, but any other system, Christianity has not solved it. Buddhism has not solved it. Nothing, because they don't address these issues. They never really address these issues, even if it might be there in the background, but they'll say something like, no, the law doesn't apply now. It's all about, different. So if you look at all the ills of society, of the world, all the problems, give me one that Islam doesn't have this. So my question to mankind, including to women who are complaining about, number one, that men are abusive. Number two, a lot of sisters are complaining that men are not men enough. A lot of women are coming to us and saying, I want you to teach my husband how to be a real man, or my boys how to become real men, or I want to know before I get married so I don't make a mistake and kick myself in the head with a spin kick. I want to know how to pick a real man. Okay? So the solution again is Islam.
It's Islam, Brother Gabriel, we've got a lot of comments coming in. Jamaal, you got to keep up, bro. You got to throw them out there,
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt Gabriel in the middle of but there's so many comments coming in.
Bismillah.
It's gone crazy.
catch up with you. There's a backlash nowadays when you start saying things like men should be men and women should be women. How do you deal with that?
Okay, why is there a backlash? I don't understand. Men should be men. Look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if it's about philosophy and debate, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it very clear. سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْأَفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. We will show them the signs, the evidences, in the surrounding, in the environment. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't always say, oh, the Quran says this. No, Allah says, look at the sky, look at the moon, look at the people, look around, because you can see, people can see. What we can see, both can see that it's light right now here, it's day. And in yourself, the signs in yourself, you can never escape the human nature. There's men will be men, women will be women, by DNA, by anatomy, by biology, no matter what they try to do. It's always going to be like that. So when people say, well, there's a backlash when you say men are be men, women, this is just propaganda, man. Because in the end, men are men.
Yeah, you say it's propaganda, but I mean, even for example, nowadays on TV, when you watch certain programs now, or even just watching adverts, we see a massive increase now in maybe like if you gender neutral type adverts. Where men are no longer men and women are no longer women.
Well, that's what it is, right?
Yeah,
it's a dawah. They're doing dawah. They're very aggressive in their dawah, and they have a very clear objective on what they want to do. Once you make that difference very, very slight or non-existent with this gender neutral, then what you do is you don't have a family union anymore. And the family is the building block of the ummah of this world, actually. So once you've attacked that, and men don't want to marry anymore because they want to be, with men, and women want to be with women, or whatever, with a doll.
Or even outside of wedlock, even men and women outside of wedlock, where there's no, no consequences for that. It's encouraged.
Yeah,
so
bro. But
you're breaking down the family unit, and you're attacking the family unit in every single aspect.
It's becoming worse and worse, though, bro. Before, zina was like, people could say, "What's zina?" It's still men and women. But right now, I mean, people are going to like things like plastic and dolls and VR and ultimate artificial intelligence, all kinds of sort of perversions. But what are these meant to? They're meant to attack the family building block, right? Because when a man is not a man and a woman is not a woman, then guess what? The two cannot come together, man. I mean, that's what it is. And then if they don't come together, it's not only about sex. It's about the union, the holy union that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put on this earth. Okay, that he says, وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And what comes out of it is children who are going to be taught, and their mothers are going to say, see your father, he's a real man, you be like that. Okay, not look at Thor, look at Iron Man, look at Spider-Man. He's going to say, that's your father, he's a real man. Okay, you be like that. Imam Ahmed's mother, Imam Bukhari's mother. Okay, we used to take him out in the desert and leave him at night and man him up. Today you'll be like, that's child abuse. But these women knew what they were doing. So the issue is that there's this huge attack of men being men, women being women. And in the end, bro, you cannot escape the nature. Nature is going to always stamp you. There's a joke, right? Guy goes to the doctor. Excuse me, I'm being a bit, frank. But the guy goes to the doctor, and the doctor comes out with the results. And he says, excuse me, sir, your results already. He says, excuse me, that's miss for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, miss, in that case, miss, your results say that you have testicular cancer. Okay. You know what I mean? You can't hide away from your DNA, bro.
Yeah.
I think the whole argument is about the biological aspect compared to the psychological aspect. So, but Jamaal, there's loads of comments that we've got, so we got to blast through some of these. Yeah,
we're going to go through the comments 100%. But the first thing is, are we going to make sure we got enough time that we can discuss the content of the actual the course itself?
Yeah, we're going to do that. Don't worry.
Okay, great. So we'll make sure we save time for that.
We'll come back to that towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Right at the end. Perfect. So let's skip this next one here. Then we'll go to the next comment. Muslim BB. I'm not ashamed to say that Islam came to teach men how to be men and teach women how to be women. Solomon Ibrahim. We need to be alpha, all of us. # Red Pill. Rolo Tomasi all the way. Rolo Tomasi. I thought we were going to put the front head. Solomon.
I'm not sure about that, but.
Ibrahim, Ibrahim everyone can't be alpha. There's no balance, he says. He says men have been emasculated by society. Some of it to do with too much estrogen in the water.
There's some more that's linked to that as well, actually.
Yeah, estrogen in the food, not water. So the chicken is pumped with estrogen. That's why the chicken has fat thighs, and that's why we need to be careful not to buy too much chicken. It's Suleiman Ibrahim again, and also Alia for Truth and Justice. At Suleiman Ibrahim, interesting, but apparently females who take birth control urinate out excess, so it ends up in the water as it's not filtered. But I haven't seen any research. Someone told me.
We're going into the conspiracy theory zone now. All right, there's another one about later on. Lucia, yeah.
Apparently, violence towards women is inherently estrogenic. Studies show that males exposed to high levels of prenatal testosterone are more agreeable and kind to women.
Okay, and Sister Salwa, what is she saying?
Media does not tell the truth in the USA, and for one reason, it is controlled by the Jews. This we know. Also, they twist the truth to sway the people to believe what they want, one-sided.
Okay, next, what else have we got?
Suleiman Ibrahim, question. Today on YouTube, we have lots of sheikhs online, but they can't talk about subjects that will get them banned on YouTube, such as feminism, male patriarchy, etc. Is this issue today how to tackle?
That's a very good one.
Yeah.
Any more? Well, let's blast through as many as we can, basically.
Alia for Truth and Justice. The problem is that many brothers behave according to culture and not Islam.
I'd agree with that, definitely.
Isha, I'd say those are relatively accurate representations of what a high testosterone males are, minus the gym junkie thing. Being too emotional is estrogenic.
What else have we got?
Am I right in thinking that there's a misunderstanding of what an alpha male actually is? Example, you need to be a gym junkie, not allowed to cry.
We answered that earlier on. We answered that.
What is an alpha male?
An alpha male is the one who takes charge. The brothers already explained that one. Yeah. Is there any more comment? Yeah, Jazakallah Khair by Khalid Bari.
Suleiman's
back, Jamaal. Suleiman's back with more.
I am alpha male. It is basically as long as you are opposite of beta, then you are alpha. So beta is one who lets everyone walk over him and doesn't know how to stand up for himself. Is a doormat. Then we have some conflict going on there, which is quite interesting. So anyway, not all people are suited for leadership roles. This is why only certain people were assigned leadership during the time of Rasul and the Caliph.
Okay.
Then Suleiman Ibrahim, I disagree. Omar was strong character and he was alpha because he led the whole Khalifa. And guess what? Abu Bakr was softer, but he was also alpha because he was Khalifa too. So there's a contrast there, which is true. Then Ibrahim says, yes, but Abu Bakr was a great leader, but in himself, I don't think he was an alpha male. But do we know this? There is nothing wrong with being alpha male as long as you have the strength you need as a man.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with being a beta male, she's saying.
Yeah, beta, yeah.
Okay, Alia, Abu Bakr was alpha. If they don't,
I think they're debating.
We'll fight them. That is alpha. Go to bed. It's your sleep time. Yeah, then obviously we can start to see Suleiman being a little bit rude.
Don't be rude, bro. Don't be rude.
It's not nice, mashallah. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Okay, Barry Elandi. A man is a person full does the duty of a man to God and to creation.
Yeah, we mentioned that as well.
Dear Suleiman, a true alpha male wouldn't feel threatened by a simple woman disagreeing with him. He'd acknowledge it as a difference of opinion and move on. Whoa.
Exactly. I like that.
I like that as well.
Yeah, what else have we got?
At Lucia, exactly. Nowadays, many men are so toxic and can't even stand to be disagreed with by a female, even though Omar Ibn al-Khattab was disagreed with about Maha.
Okay. There's some good points there. I would like to talk about.
Okay. I have 3 wives and they disagree with me sometimes. It's okay. I'm usually calm, but I haven't gone gym in a long time.
All right.
Woo, AT, you can take over, man. I'm getting.
You can take over. All right, no worries. There's so many comments, man. We gotta blast through this.
I want to say something.
It says, "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Loving this topic. I often provoke people by saying many male adults are becoming boys and not men. Feminists have made our lives difficult. Feminists are creating masculine women where women are expected to be men. It's time to bring back traditional gender roles and respect that there is nothing wrong with being a man or a woman who who can't take the roles of both genders. Sister Gigi, I'm quite impressed to see that. That's coming from a sister as well. What else do we have? Anything else?
Let's see.
Done. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I want to say something about the last comment. Okay.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
And I'll tell you why we started the course. Actually, the course, the Muslim Alpha Men, okay, was started at the request of sisters. Okay. And to be honest, I've been doing this for quite some time now. And yes, I have the 5 to 10% negative comments and sisters really blasting me. But in general, women are waking up. In general, women have been fooled to believe that they want to be independent. They can take both gender roles, blah, blah, blah. But now, after some time, a lot of women are waking up and realizing that, man, I miss being with the real masculine men. And that's how it is, In Islam, there's a rule that we know something by its opposite. So females, women, become more feminine when they have a real man with them. And a lot of women are realizing now that, oh my God, what has happened to me? I don't recognize myself. I don't like the way I am. And I feel much more amazing when I have a real man around myself to take care of me. And I feel more feminine when there's a real man around me. So I agree with the last comment. And a lot of sisters, believe it or not, are very positive. And they're the ones who requested for this course to take place. And that's what we wanted to do. Basically, this course is very simple. We look at the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ and what were their characteristics and what made them to be real men. And we try to teach that in today's context. And we try to create, we say there's a lack of role models. I don't want my son to look at Spider-Man and Batman and Superman because they don't exist. It's like telling them to believe in Santa Claus, okay? It's not like that. I want them to see real role models. So I want Khalid bin Walid. I want Omar Khattab. I want Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I want Abdullah bin Zubair. I want, Tariq bin Ziyad. I want Muhammad Fatih. I want all these great heroes who were real alpha men and were leaders and strong. And I want my kids to look at them and say, I want to be like that. Just the same way the non-Muslims are studying Alexander the Great and Caesar and all these Napoleon. It's our prerogative to also highlight these people without fearing the backlash. And oh my God, every time the Muslims talk about their heroes, it's jihad and terrorism. Every time the non-Muslims talk about its history, its civilization, its great leaders, and so on. To correct one of the comments, though, the alpha men, it's not all about leadership. It's about a mindset. It's about a mindset, okay, of not accepting to be a slave to anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the Muslim alpha man is. Different males have been suited for leadership role. You can be an alpha male and not be a khalifa or but it's about your attitude. It's about being the leader of your family. It's about being and taking charge. That's the first time you're an alpha in your family. It's not about always taking leadership in positions and so on. It's not about that. It's about you taking that responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed on you as a Muslim. And you do your part, and some do it better than others. But the beta man is the one who's, as one of the comments says, a doormat. People walk all over. Don't mistake, okay, being sensitive for softness or weakness, okay? The Prophet ﷺ was sensitive. He would cry, okay? We have some hadith that their beards would get wet. Omar Khattab would cry till his beard gets wet. These Sahabas were sensitive. They understood, they connected, and they had soft hearts, okay? They had soft hearts because of their iman. They were not harsh in that case. But when it came down to real business, man, they knew how to take care of business. They knew when it had to be hard, okay? And trust me, they knew how to apply it. So don't mistake being sensitive and caring and righteous for being weak. That's not what we're not teaching people to be weak. So all these Sahaba, Abu Bakr would cry. But when the word of Riddas came, and he put his foot down, and even Omar Khattab was so tough. He says, Ya Abu Bakr, I don't think we should do it. He says, I will fight everyone who makes a distinction between Salah and Zakah. Very clearly. And he's gone all the way till Oman and past and Yemen. And he fought anyone who made that distinction. Oh my God, brother, he fought? Yes, brother, he fought. Okay, because that's what it is. Because they stood for justice. Because when you take Zakah, you take the right of the poor. So he fought for the right of the poor. He fought for justice. And he fought for bringing the light to this world. And we are not shy to say that. We are proud. I'm proud as a Muslim to know that Abu Bakr would smash some people around because he established justice. And the whole world is so-called establishing justice today, right? But Allah says to them in the Quran, okay, very clearly, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْلِمُونَ. When it said to them, don't spread injustice and fasad and evil on the earth, they say, we're peacemakers. That's the difference, guys. The difference is that those people were indeed people bringing justice. And sadly, today we find that people are looking only for colonization, benefit, for economic belief, gain, who's going to control the oil prices, who's going to control the world. And that's not the intention of those people. Those people, the intention was very clear when they went to Rustum, and the Sahaba, the Bedouin Sahaba, was asked very clearly, okay? And yes, I believe he was an alpha male. He walked through the big palace with his spear, and he was spearing through the big pillows. He was not impressed at all. And when he went through the entrance that was very low, where he wanted to get people to bow down, he entered backwards. Okay, you can imagine why, right? And he didn't care. And he told him, you come out of the desert smelling like camel pee. I'll give you some money, go back. He says, no. He says, why are you coming? He says, we're coming here to liberate you from the constrictness of the dunya to the vastness of the hereafter. And from the worship of the created to the worship of the creator. And from the injustice of man-made systems to the justice of Allah. Very simple. Very simple.
I think there's a couple of questions that I want to explore a bit more, because we do over here, we have a youth project, a youth program as well, where we try to instill in the young brothers how they should be behaving, going through that transition period. And we also deal with the young sisters as well on some of the things that they should be concerned about when they're going through that transition period. Because, there's something very important I think that needs to be highlighted. One of the teachers, they said, in Islam, there is no teenager period of, all that nonsense that goes on. You're a child and then you're a man.
You're a man.
Child, and then you're a woman. There's none of that. You're in that in-between stage for about 5 or 7 years where you can, you're an adult, but yet you still behave like a child, right? So you can't have it both ways. There's none of that transition period. So some of the things that we were looking at was, how do we instill build some of these qualities of manhood in our boys when they're going through that transition, and that womanhood in the girls when they're going through that transition. What would your advice be on some of those things?
Okay, so having been in education for so long, I'm dealing with the Cambridge curriculum, with the American curriculum as well, Common Core Standards, IGCSEs. I think the education is in today's society, today's world, is actually counterproductive. I just seen a quote recently by Brother Eddie on the Dean Show. He was saying, don't let school get in the way of your education. Don't let school get in the way of your education. And I totally resound that, because I've been a school principal for a long time now. I've been a teacher before. And the problem is with the way we approach training these children and giving them those, the education that they deserve, is there's no purpose. They don't have a purpose. They just are supposed to sit down, learn something, memorize it, regurgitate it in an exam. There's no clear-cut application to life. There's no purpose. Human beings, for the longest time, would have purpose in life. Young boys would go with their fathers. Young girls would go with their mothers. The gender roles were clear. Young women would be proud to teach their daughters how to cook, how to clean. But today that's being distorted. That's being considered very low. They used to be proud of nurturing human souls. Women don't want to have kids today because it's a burden on them. They used to be proud women, and the daughters would see their mothers, and they would help their mothers with the little babies, and they would feel proud, because it is about what you're raising the next generation. What more of a noble job than to do that? And the men would take their kids to the field, to the village, to the market, and they would give them purpose. They would make them feel like they have a say in what goes around. While today, as you said, our youth in these teenage years, what's their purpose in this life? I ask my students, What do you guys do from the age of 8 or 7 when you stop playing till the age of 25 when you graduate from university? Nothing. You just study, supposedly, and then you end up with a paper, and then you go and you're unemployed, right? Because you haven't learned any skills. You've only learned theory. There's no application. That's what I try to implement in my school, project-based learning. You need to be a solution to a problem in the world. My students say, but how can we do that, sir? And I say, I don't know. Look for a problem and find something. How did people invent things? How did people innovate things? They looked at problems and then they look what they can do for it. Oh, but we're young, we're little. Well, yeah, what do you want? Yeah, you're little. So you consider yourself little. It depends on how you think about yourself. You want to think of yourself as being little, you're going to be little. You want to think yourself being big, you're going to be. I'm not saying being arrogant. I'm talking about what's your mindset. Do you consider yourself to be nothing? You're going to be nothing. You're going to be right. Or you're going to consider yourself to be, because all the inventors, all the great people started somewhere with a dream when they're little. The problem is today, we tell them to dream and then just stay there sleeping while continue dreaming while you're sleeping, as opposed to applying it in real life. A lot of things are theoretical because we're being conditioned to live in a life of movies. Watching the movies, wow, I could be that, wow, and watch another movie, and the time goes by. No, bro, you need to live, man. You need to have a purpose in this life. And that's why Islam is very clear in defining the objective of Islam. What is the objective for man, woman, child, for everyone? It is very clear. So when you have an objective in life, when you have a purpose, imagine, bro, waking up in the morning and looking in the mirror and saying, I'm going to do something today. I'm going to change the world. This is how a Muslim should wake up every day. But most people wake up saying, oh my God, here's another day. I want to go back to sleep. That's the problem. They do it because they are pushed or they wait for the feel-good moment. Islam doesn't teach you when you feel it's right, you're going to do it. Society is pushing you today to say, well, when you're going to feel it, you're going to do it. You're going to feel it one day, you're going to feel good. No, Islam teaches you, start doing it, and then the feeling will come. And if it doesn't come, keep pushing. And that's what it is, right? It's not about, we wake up for Fajr and we might not feel like doing it. We might not feel like staying up the whole night. We might not feeling like fasting 30 days is not easy, but that's the point. But when you feel it, when that moment kicks in and you feel it, you really feel the halawatul iman, that's when you're like, man, that's something that's worth more than this world, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I think, with this lockdown and the COVID-19 and stuff like that, especially this Ramadan, this is my personal viewpoint as well, of course, especially in Ramadan, and the many of the men of the household, they're used to going to the masjid and then praying tarawih, and it's of course it's a good thing to do, and we miss the masjid so much, and we now I hope many of us appreciate the importance of the masjid now that it's been taken away from us in this blessed month. But one thing it has led to do, it's forced the men to become the imams of their homes, right? And this is something positive we can take from that, because essentially the man is the imam of his house. He leads his family. He protects them. He teaches them, and that's what the imam does, right? The purpose of the imam is so that he will lead the salah, but he's also a leader in the community. And that's essentially what the man of the house is. He's the imam of his home. And that's what it's led to a lot of people having to do, to lead their family, their women folk, the children, not only in salah, but hopefully just resets things a little bit as well, to understand that, the characteristics of real man, and I'm going to put in quotation marks again, yeah, because there's so much variation on this, but from an Islamic viewpoint, it is the family. It is protection. It is having that good character. It is his word. His word is bond. When we say something, that we stick to it. He is the final decision maker. He's the leader. Even though when we say he's the leader, through consultation, right?
I hope so.
Shura as well. But he takes responsibility for his actions. And I guess that's the bit. And there's a little pet peeve of mine I have to mention. I've got to get this off my chest, bro. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that really, really annoys me. It really, really does annoy me. That when brothers, grown men behave like children, right?
Yeah.
Even, for example, it's a simple thing like picking up the phone and speaking to your brother to clarify a misconception, picking up the phone and, dealing with things head on. If there's a misunderstanding, or if there's something that's gone, there's certain, things that have been said, instead of backbiting one another, pick up the phone, speak to your brother, get the clarification. Maybe it's a simple miscommunication, and then deal with it. And this is why I think it's so important to understand this manhood. We became like children. It's like, oh yeah, he said this, and I'll reply with this comment, and I'll tell my mate this. Forget about telling your mates, and forget about making the comments and writing on WhatsApp messages. And I hate WhatsApp anyway. But because you can misconstrue text based upon your emotion at the time, right?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Pick up the phone like we used to back in the days, have a conversation with the dude, get it clarified, and then move on.
I think that's a beautiful comment, AT, because it shows us that the discussion is not about men being men over women, but it's about men being men with their brothers as well, with their men, and how to deal with them, and not be timid and shy and afraid to confront each other over matters of truth, over the haqq. So I think that's a beautiful point, subhanAllah.
I want to say something though about what you said about the brothers being in the house and being the imams. I really hope that's taking place, because one of the things that I've seen in here, for example, where I'm in Malaysia, in this culture, and basically the women are the leaders. The brothers have gone to such a low level that they're not the imams of the house. The women are the leaders. The women will put the lockdown on the men. So a lot of the men will complain like, oh, my wife doesn't respect me. And I always ask him like, why? What's going on? Well, she doesn't respect me. And when we talk to the sisters and you say, why don't you respect your husband? She's like, what should I respect? You know what I mean? He doesn't take any leadership. He can't make a decision. If you ask him, what do you want? He doesn't know. If he has to take a decision to go somewhere, to do something, he can't take it. He's always flip-flopping. He's hesitating. So I hope that guys are becoming really the imams of the house, or it might be that they're becoming the followers of the house, because it seems that because of this whole movement and the feminist movement, women have really stepped up in the leadership role and have pushed down the men. It's very easy for a woman today to threaten a man that she's going to divorce, she's going to take the kids, she's going to this, she wants to be loud, he has to listen. So in most of the cases that I've seen right now, and that's part of the reason why we started course, that a lot of the women are controlling the men in a very negative way. And the men don't, so it's not about being hard with the woman, about putting the smack down or saying like that. No, it's about taking leadership. It's about sometimes you have to tell her, hey, you need to relax. Okay, I know what I'm doing. I know what I have to take and what are the decisions that I have to make. And sorry, but a lot of women do find that being quite sexy, They're going to feel that is a real man. And that's why a lot of the sisters say, I can't respect my husband because he can't take a decision. I'm sorry, I can't respect I had one brother, he gave me some heat for this comment. But I said, if you can't please your wife, man, at least in bed, then how you going to expect her to respect you? You know what I mean? Because some of the issues get to that point where the men are not men. They're so weak these days because of all the things that we mentioned, that they're kind of just sitting around and see how things are. If the woman decides to take leadership, she'll take it, he'll follow, and so on. So men have to really become the imams of their house, according to the Islamic principles, according to the right things. They have to really take care of the women. They have to satisfy them. They have to not put themselves always first and be selfish. They really have to take that leadership role. And subhanAllah, the women will automatically, naturally, will submit. And they will like doing it. So it's not going to be a fight. It's not going to be a debate. They will love doing that. And you find when there's a real brother, a real man who takes care of business at home, and he provides, and the family feels safe, and he's a role model, the woman looks at him like he's, wow. You know what I mean? She adores him. She respects him. She loves him so much. But when you don't do that, the sisters say, they really say, this is what the sisters, I quote them. They say, what should I respect, brother? Show me one thing that I can submit to. I want to submit. Okay, but what should I submit to? So that's a big issue.
there's a couple of comments which is linked to what you've just been mentioning, and the Mr. Esquire says also not all Sahaba were so-called alpha males. Some were meek and extremely shy and modest. Some were rough and tough. And the example that comes to mind actually is Abdullah ibn Masud, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken.
His feet were very, his legs were very skinny, but that doesn't mean he was not a man.
But the Prophet ﷺ said they're like mountains.
That's right. That's right.
And he also goes on to say, there's another comment from him, I think it was just up on the screen. The speaker is misleading with the example of Mughira bin Shu'bah in Rustam's tent at the eve of Qadsiya. Mughira was chosen precisely because he was so-called alpha, in deference to many other Sahaba who were not alpha. What's your reply to that, bro?
Well, I just want to say, the one example that I have is Hassan ibn Thabit, the Prophet ﷺ's poet, who specifically said that he said, I'm quite weak, I cannot hold a sword, and he couldn't. But without exception, when you read the Quran, right, our example and our basis is the Quran and the Sunnah. When we look through the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it very clearly that most people will go for war. And the ones who refused to not go and they made excuses, they were boycotted, okay, and so on. However, not everyone was sent to war. Some people are left to study and to learn. Okay, so it's not all about war, and but some of the scholars are, because they're gonna have to fight an intellectual battle. They're gonna have to fight like today, with someone mentioned, right? These topics are not covered. And do we expect people to punch each other or to go to war? No, but we expect them to have enough courage to be able to address. Some people have 2 million followers, 4 million, 5 million, and they all talk about salah and zakah and fasting, which is very important, amazing, needed. But you have all these followers, and the followers claim that we have so many problems in our societies. Why not address some of these issues as you have knowledge and teach your followers the right way? So I believe that, yes, some scholars, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there will be a fi'ah or a group who will stay behind to when the people come back, that they remind them with Allah. They learn, they study. But these are also alpha because they stand for truth. They're not going to submit to propaganda. They're not going to be afraid to speak the haqq and the truth. But in general, when you read the Quran, being a coward, staying back, retrieving from war, not being a man enough, this was considered as a very negative trait. And without exception, the Sahabas lined up, okay, for a battle. The Battle of Badr, the Battle of Uhud, the Battle of Khandaq. All the battles, people went forward. Of course, people have a problem with that today because it's somehow horrible for the Muslims to talk about their holy battles. And we know that in Ramadan, the Battle of Badr was in Ramadan. Okay, so I totally disagree. I believe that, yes, it's not about just being her. It's the misunderstanding what an alpha means. An alpha stands for justice.
We addressed this at the beginning as well.
So even if someone doesn't go and face the
steroid freak gym sort of guy, it's more than that. It's the mindset that you were talking about. That's the issue here. But there's another question here by Brother Hassan Tariq. A lot of men hate to admit it when they're wrong, as if they will lose their manhood if they're seen to be wrong. Any advice for this kind of man or woman, for that matter?
Well, I mean, that's part of manhood. That's part of being a real man, taking responsibility for your mistakes or when you're wrong. Right? That's what we teach. Even when it is, as one of them mentioned, right, with regards to Umar Khattab about the mahar and others, right? That's what it is. When you can say, you know what, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. That is real, man. That's not weakness. That is strength, man. That is strength. So, but because why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya alladhina amanu taqullah wa kunu ma'as sadiqin. Oh, you believe, fear Allah, and be with those who say the truth. See, all these things were characteristics of Sahabas. All these things were part of being a real man. Okay, we have to be careful with the definition of who is the Muslim alpha man, who is the real man, because it seems that some of the viewers are still thinking it's about the one who beats himself in the chest and wears the Tarzan, suit or something like that. It's not about that. Okay, it's about many things. There are many aspects and characteristics, amongst which being kind and being sensitive is part of being a real man, because the Sahaba were that.
And Haya.
And Haya, yes.
Haya is part of our Iman. Haya is part of our
no doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
But
also,
you see,
bro.
So yeah, so also the whole concept, as you mentioned there, Gabriel, was a fantastic point about learning when to apologize when you're in the wrong. This is one of the hardest things for men to do, and it's something which takes a long time to get accustomed to. But this, as you said, this is definitely a part of being a man, really, because just owning up to it if you do something wrong. But unfortunately, sometimes it's seen as a kind of weakness.
It's not, definitely, because we see the Sahabas doing it, we see the righteous people doing it, and it's part of humbling yourself, Allah the Prophet said, whoever humbles himself to Allah like this, Allah will raise them like that, right? So, but one thing that I wanted to say, one of the main traits of a real alpha, a real Muslim alpha man, is that he has hikmah, he has wisdom. And maybe that's going to bring more context to what we're saying, because the scholars have defined hikmah as being putting the right thing in the right place at the right time. Okay, so some of the comments were saying, yeah, but in this case, this Sahaba did this, and in this case, this Sahaba did that. No, it's not about which Sahaba did what. It's about what was the case and how they applied. When did they apply strength? When did they apply softness? When did they apologize? And when did they lay the smackdown? I mean, that's what real hikmah is, when you know exactly when you have to be strong and you have to put your chest out, and when you have to put your head down. This is a real man knows how to do, and we find this in the Sahaba at perfection.
Real hikmah. There's loads of comments still. So I've got Alia for Truth and Justice. Sister Alia makes a good point here. What goes around comes around, that most men have lost their way and also been programmed by society. I don't disagree with that. She also says the women are finding it difficult to find men that have the mental strength to be able to be the Amir of the household, not a little tyrant, but the man. And there's a difference between the two. I think that's very, very important to highlight. Yeah. Muslim BB says, no one disagrees with men working out, but flexing your muscles, quotation marks, has connotations of ego, arrogance, and pride. Yeah, I agree with that. What else have we got?
Sulaiman Ibrahim, men have been limited by society.
I think Sulaiman's trolling, bro. I think he's been a bit of a troll today. Yeah. So what else have we got? Mr. Esquire says, the Prophet likewise described Abu Bakr to be soft like Isa and Umar hard like Musa. So there needs to be some balance here. Danger of misleading. I think we addressed that at the beginning. It's not about the physical strength and how loud one is and stuff like that. It's a mindset issue that we were discussing earlier on the beginning, which determines, even if they're soft like he says, Abu Bakr, soft like Isa, that still can make him an alpha. It doesn't mean that he's not. I think you addressed that earlier on. Those Sahaba scolded for remaining behind at Tabuk were not scolded due to lack of being alpha. They simply did not take heed. Yeah, that's a true point. Allah did not describe them as cowards. Subhanallah.
I didn't say they were cowards. I just say that they lost the opportunity. They hesitated. And that's one of the things of not being sometimes you hesitate, you snooze, you lose. And
yeah.
Allah has highlighted that for us as a lesson for the time to remain till Yawm al-Qiyamah. That don't hesitate. That's as He did with Bani Israel. Why does Surah Al-Baqarah keep bringing on Bani Israel? It's because of that. Why the story of Moses is because of that. Was Moses strong sometimes? Yes, he was. He was strong with Pharaoh, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say to him a kind word. And he did. He went very soft in with Pharaoh at the beginning. Okay? Abu Bakr was soft, but he went hard with the words of Ridda. So again, it's about when do you apply what. It's not about this or that. It's about when and how and at the right time and the right thing. It's really hikmah,
Yeah.
So we have to contextualize. We have to contextualize these arguments and these ahadith.
There's some more comments here. The problem is your use of the term alpha Muslim, as it suggests there are betas who are blameworthy. But the term alpha by definition means there will be beta males to balance and counterbalance the alphas.
Okay, well, that's the thing, right? You'll find that in the world, there's going to be non-Muslims. That doesn't mean that the Muslims have to oppress them. There's going to be always the meek and the ones who are not going to be able to be strong. And it's the responsibility of those who are strong to protect them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that makes that very clear. So yes, I agree. Not everyone is going to be at that level. No doubt. Just like not everyone is going to be Muslim. That's the reality, man. You can't have both. You know what I mean? It's not everyone is going to take first position in a race. You know, the problem is that the West has taught us it's okay to be last. Naturally, some people will become last. And that doesn't mean that we're going to kick them in the back and throw them out, the window or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. It's naturally some people will not come first. And naturally, some people come first. But get what? When the first guy that passes the finish line and sees the last guy fell down, he's going to press the finish line. He's going to say, Alhamdulillah, I'm number one. And he's going to go back and pick up that last person. That's the real alpha male. And he's going to realize that, hey, naturally, I'm better, but I'm going to go and take care of that person. Okay, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings in the Quran, the women, the orphans, the destitute and people, that the real people, the real Muslim men are going to take care of them. The real people are going to protect them. Not everyone is going to be at this level, and not everyone is expected to be at the level. But the question is, are we trying? Naturally, some are going to go through, some are not. Question is, what's the mindset and who's trying? Because when you try, then yes, people will take leadership roles and some will follow. Okay, and both are okay, but one will protect the other. One will make sure that the other is taken care of. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-Muslimu qawi ahabbu ila Allah min al-Muslimu da'i wa fi kulli ma khair." The Prophet ﷺ, the strong Muslim is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and preferred than the weak Muslim. But in both of them is khair, right? This is the words of the Prophet. This is not mine. But naturally, this is what's going to happen. So Allah says the strong Muslim is more beloved. Why? The strong Muslim strives. Both of these two will strive. They should strive. One will naturally be stronger. One will be weaker. In both of them is khair. There's iman. They believe in Allah. Both of them are part of this world. We don't throw them outside. We take care of them. We lift them. And we protect them. This is the real Muslim alpha man.
Sister Gigi mentions in her comment, men who can't admit their faults and take advice from their wives need to reflect on the life of the Prophet ﷺ. If the Prophet can seek comfort in his wives, then why can't the men of today? The Prophet ﷺ had the perfect balance, and that's what men need to do. I think that's an excellent comment.
Yes,
and we'll finish off on the last two. Sister Hafsa says, just a quick question. In this generation, we are told a lot about gender equality, and even in some cases, people being told that as humans, gender now no longer exists, but are rather labels. How can we teach our children about gender roles in this generation in a way where our children see it as fair? Inshallah, that makes sense. And then we're going to finish off on this last question, bro. After you've answered that one, how do I enroll on your course? And then we're going to have to wrap it up there, inshallah. So they're your last two questions, bro.
Okay, so it's very simple how you teach your children. You have to lead by example. You have to practice these things. Women have to start being women again. Don't be fooled by this propaganda that tells you that you have to be the same as men. Because in the end, what are they trying to be? They're trying to be you're not good enough, that you have to be like men. Once they reach the level of men, supposedly, now they want you to be better than men and take over. See, the reality is that if you focus on being a woman, if you focus on taking care of yourself, investing in yourself, and knowing what you're good at and what Allah has given you, then you will become the best at that and you'll do your job the best. And the man is going to focus on his role. He's going to show what he's good at, and the two will come together. This is the most important thing, that the two will come together, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha, all you believe here, Allah, okay, who created you from one soul and made from you generations, right? We are from each other, but we're not the same. We complete each other, but we're not the same. And that's when we can complete each other, when we are not the same. When you're gonna be the same, guess what? Plus and plus rejects, minus and minus rejects itself. Plus and minus attracts each other. It's a law that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in this universe. As much as you want to talk about gender equality and all these labels and propaganda nonsense, in the end, nature the fitra, what Allah has created, as He says, I will make it clear, my signs in the horizon, in themselves. It's clear. People can talk as much as they want. يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ. They want to extinguish the light of Allah by their mouths, through their propaganda, through their talk. وَاللَّهُ يُتِمُّ نُورِهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ. Allah will perfect His light even though the disbelievers hate it. And this is it. You can hit hard, bro, but it's gonna hit harder back at you, because guess what? It's solid. It's very solid, and you cannot break it. I'm so sorry, you can't.
Yeah. There's a couple more comments just come in before we go to that one. Being a woman is beautiful and convenient. Absolutely. You lose all advantage if you try to live like a man, because you're not a man, and so you don't have the perks of being a man. It's literally the worst of both.
Worst of both, no doubt. Yep, I agree 100%.
And then the final comment is, how do we enroll on your course before we?
Okay, yeah, inshallah, if you guys can share my social media with the brothers. For now, the course is only in person. We don't do it online because, to be honest, bro, in our course, we put the boxing gloves on. We do a lot of things, man. Do a lot of things in the course that are active, and it has to be face to face. I don't think that over the internet is gonna do it. So for now, the course is only in person. So far, because of COVID, it's only in Malaysia. But inshallah, when things open up, I can come to the UK. I can move around, and we're pushing, inshallah, as much as we can. And trust me, man, when you take this course, I always give the disclaimer: you don't like it, don't like what I say, you get your money back right away, man. You can leave, right? But no one has ever done that, and so far, mashallah, people have changed their lives. And the sisters come and say, alhamdulillah, this is really good.
So what can you share with us in terms of content of the course, without giving obviously too much away? But obviously in the UK, we're going to be looking forward to maybe you coming over. Okay. But what can you share with us?
Yeah, so as I said, first we talk about the standards, the role models as to who they are and who do we analyze to find out what's a real man, and those are the Sahaba. We don't apologize. We don't we don't wash down things. We're not apologetic. We go straight for the hit. You know what I mean? We talk about strength, and we contextualize things. We talk about being a coward and being brave. We talk about how that applies to life, to your professional life, to everything. We talk about relationship. We talk about sex. We talk about how a man should please his wife. And it gets quite descriptive. But hey, the scholars didn't get shy of that, and they wrote books on these things. Somehow, which is very controversial and confusing to me, in the 21st century, the so-called open society, a lot of the Muslims who are living in the West are surrounded and bombarded by so much, sexual revolution. When we, the Muslims, talk about sex, oh brother, haram, how dare you, astaghfirullah, this is not befitting. And then, subhanallah, people are suffering from addictions, from porn, from prostitution, from unfulfilled, sexual relationships. So we talk about that. We talk about, well, if men are supposed to be leaders, well, guess what? You got to lead in there as well. So we do talk about these things. We change people's lives when it comes to this. And some sisters have tried to sneak into our courses, so we don't allow them. This is strictly for brothers, But we came up with a second course that we haven't implemented yet, but it's called How to Marry a Muslim Alpha Man. What do you look for, and what women should, try to understand. All this, as well as how do you identify someone who's going to be the man that you really want. So these are some of the things that we discuss in our course, as I said, and. Yeah, we put the boxing gloves on the brother, and we get brothers to show some love, some toughness, and then we apologize, we talk, we cry, we laugh, we do a lot of things, but it's all about looking at the Sahaba and how we can mirror those heroes, and how do we prepare these males to become men in terms of responsibility, in terms of strength, in terms of even sensitivity, and so on. And how are they going to be the role models? I don't want my son to look at Ronaldo and Messi. I am tired of this stuff. I'm tired of our children to want to be Thor. I'm tired of them who want to be a Spider-Man, to go. I want to go to trick or treat and dress up like Spider-Man. I want to be Batman. I want to be this. I'm tired of that. I want my kids to know who Khalid ibn al-Walid was. I want to know what Bani Makhzoom is, who was this tribe, why the women said there's no better men than Khalid that the women of Bani Makhzoom have known. You know, I want to know. I want him to learn that. There's no shyness in that. There's no shyness in the fact that Khalid whipped the Roman Empire in a very, very strategic move. You know, he crossed the desert, man, the empty quarter, and no one expected, and he hit him from the back really hard. I want my son to be proud of that, because that's something people have not done before that. I want him to know who this man was, and I want him to know as a real, and who are the real men, and to look up to them and to say, I want to be like that. This is what I want. This is my legacy.
Jazakallah khair. I think we're gonna wrap it up there, inshallah. We've got to connect you with Brother Fadli, who's in Malaysia, and maybe he can help us support you there as well, inshallah. So we're gonna wrap it up there. This is the end of the late show. It's been very insightful. There's been a lot of discussion about a lot of different things and different aspects. You may agree, you may disagree. You know, this is the whole point. We want those conversations. We want to get the discussions going. I think this has been one of the most busiest shows this Ramadan.
I'd agree with that, bro.
Of comments and interaction, and it's expected as well. I wouldn't expect anything less as well, to be honest with you, because it is such a topical issue. It's something that really, really needs to be addressed, especially in our very over hypersexualized society, where everything we live in a society of confusion. That's my honest view, where nobody knows what it means to be anything anymore. All right. And there's so much confusion, identity crises, people who are, and I know this because I work with the youth, and I'm listening to what they're saying when we have our open discussions and our workshops. So I know for sure that there is so much identity crisis. We're not just talking about gender identity crisis. We're talking about ethnic and race and everything. I mean, we hear about young brothers who are talking about, well, I don't want to be this color, I want to be that color, or I don't want to be like this, I want to be like that, or I don't want to be, you know, there's so many things that are going on right now, and it really, really is confusing times. That and there's so much pressure on our young people. I have to say this, they are under the spotlight and being hit from, especially Muslim youth, from so many different angles. You know, me and Jamaal, right? We would have grown up in an era where overt racism was a thing, and we dealt with that, right? Yeah. Now the kids have to deal with not only overt racism, because still a thing, by the way, but it's a bit more nuanced and it's different. And then now they have to deal with Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hatred. And then they have to deal with the gender issues. And then they have to deal with, there's so many things that they're being, I mean, I remember a young lad saying to me, he said, this is a young Bengali lad. He said, you know, in school, they keep calling me an Iraqi. But I'm not Iraqi, I'm a Bengali. And I said, what do you think he meant by that? He said, I know he meant he was trying to call me a terrorist, right? That's what they're associated with. But there's so much confusion now that it's, you know, that we need to address these issues. And just by the comments alone, we can see that people are genuinely concerned about these things. So, Jazakallah khair for your time, Brother Gabriel. We're definitely going to keep in touch, inshallah, and we're gonna see how we're gonna move forward as well. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Who have we got tomorrow night, Jamaal? Let me just have a quick check.
Okay.
Tomorrow night, I think we've got Brother Abdul Malik Taylor, who's going to be talking about. He's from Muslim history schools, and he's going to be talking about the Islamic history in Britain. There are many things that people don't know about that, and they'll be surprised to hear about. So we're going to be back tomorrow, inshallah. All right. So on that note, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow midnight, inshallah.
This is what everyone knows Newcastle for, football. But I'm going to tell you about something much, much better.
They want to know about Islam, we'll give them da'wah. They want to know what a Muslim does, we'll give them da'wah. When they want to hate on...
In 2012, I was a non-Muslim who walked into my local masjid. I met the brothers there from IDC. This was a team of brothers who told me about the Masjid of Islam in detail. I took my Shahada. The brothers, they didn't just leave me there. You know, they supported me, provided me new Muslim classes, and after all these years, I became the head of the new Muslim department here at IDC, teaching other new Muslims, supporting them and mentoring them, just like I was supported. IDC is not just your typical charity. We have our Islamic awareness stalls engaging with non-Muslims in our local city centre, and answering all their questions about Islam, public events and exhibitions for non-Muslims to come learn about Islam, masjid visits for the local community, school visits teaching non-Muslim kids and staff about Islam. We visit the elderly and spend time with them regularly to give them companionship, feeding the homeless every single week, giving them hot meals and advice. We make the children smile every single year by visiting them in the hospitals and giving them gifts. So many people have taken their shahada with us.
أشهد
أشهد
أن
أن
لا
لا
إله
إله
إلا الله.
إلا الله.
Because of this, we then provide new Muslim classes for them and support them on their journey. Please, please, please give whatever you can. Do you know how much you can afford? Better than myself. Some of us can give £10, some of us can give £500, and every single person that accepts Islam, you will get a portion of that reward. The Prophet, peace be upon him, he said that charity does not decrease our wealth. So brothers and sisters, believe in those words and give for the sake of Allah, and Allah inshallah will increase it for you. Click the button and donate now.
They wanna know about Islam.